looking through, Sam, and
Yep.
I can't see anything else we've missed. What do you think?
No.
So intro and conclusion hit it hard, but then everything else done.
Yep, fully
Yeah?
done. Well done.
Welcome back. You're watching the Dr. Nandy Show, and we're now joined by twin brothers, Sam and Kit Wallen-Russell, two very smart guys who knew all about bad skin at a very early age.
The really alarming truth is that we're all just 40% human. The remaining 60% is actually alien microbes.
But why is understanding the microbiome so important?
Because there's a chronic disease epidemic raging across the Western world. There's been a catastrophic biodiversity loss of the human microbiome.
A Notre Dame grad and his twin brother are looking to revolutionize skin health.
There's a revolution in whole body health on its way.
Something you cannot pass up.
The skin microbiome could be the missing piece of the puzzle for whole body health.
Sam and Kit, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Amazing, aren't they, guys?
A world's first. Our Made in Michiana series is back this morning. ABC 57 morning anchor Vahid Zarazadeh introduces us to twin brothers from the UK who are taking the skincare industry by storm.
At a young age, twins Sam and Kit Wallen-Russell learned the importance of premium skincare. Their mom had a skin condition. She tried everyday cosmetics and over-the-counter creams, but nothing helped.
So we were thinking inside our own heads, if nothing works, even these steroid creams which they prescribed at the end, and if everything, including the everyday cosmetics, makes the problem worse, then why is there the cosmetics industry? Why does that exist?
Kit, a planetary geophysicist, teamed up with his brother, a nuclear astrophysicist, Sam, who at the time was finishing his master's at the University of Notre Dame. The two launched a 2-year intensive research study and found there was a skin allergy epidemic.
For the first time, we found a link between the chemicals in everyday cosmetics and the skin allergy epidemic and damaged the skin microbiome. So that was a massive breakthrough.
I think probably my big mistake was to seek medical help. And I do remember going away to Canada on business and my face just felt awful. It was sore, stinging, I couldn't even put water on it. It was so sore.
Linda grew up in a Presbyterian family on the west coast of Scotland. Her commitment to helping others and improving the world came from her mother and her grandfather. One was an elder and the other was a minister in the Church of Scotland, while her creativity came from her father, a graduate of Charles Rennie Mackintosh's world-famous Glasgow School of Art. So how did it all start?
Right, so that woman at the end was our mum. And really she's the face which launched 1,000 questions for us, to use a Greek analogy. But to go back to the true beginning for me, ever since a young age, I've had this deep sense of right and wrong, and I think that's embedded in any society, especially America, or any child especially. And growing up, I always had this burning desire to try and do what's best and to try and help as many people in the world. But I was often unsure of what route that would take me down in life, and whether when I was a teenager, I thought that might mean I grow up and be a tennis professional or try and help someone through philanthropy. But now, in our bones, we know deep down that it is our mission to reverse the chronic disease epidemic in the Western world. And we focus on this every day, don't we, Sam?
Yep.
And as a result, we are now transforming lives all around the world. So I'm going to read you out a couple of... Do you have the...
Yep, here we go.
All right. See, I'm going to read you out a couple of success stories or testimonials to show the work we're doing. So firstly, this is from Sheila, who suffered with horrible whole body skin issues, which made her bedbound, and she had huge sores all over her arms and legs. She said, "I want you to know how thankful I am that I have my life back, and I want this for others too. I'm going on this for life." And her skin at the top there, that was after stopping the use of topical steroids, which were prescribed to her by a doctor, ironically for her initial skin problems, which were eczema. And then her skin now at the bottom, what an incredible transformation. So next one. This is from a woman called Christy, and she says, "I'm getting my life back. I can laugh again. I can leave the house without thinking I'm a monster. I can pay the cashier and not be completely ashamed of my hands. I can even wear my wedding rings again. I can turn my head to back out of my driveway. I can wear short sleeves again after not being able to for a year. I can wear clothes other than 100% cotton. And finally, I have hope. And it's not until these little things are taken away from you and you're in severe pain do you realise how much these little everyday things that all of us, including me, in a big sense, take for granted. So that's a lovely story. And lastly, it's probably the most heartfelt one of the most because it involves a baby. And everyone loves babies, especially because they're so cute and they're so innocent. But Mason's mum said the result is so far a true miracle. And Mason was a baby who, when he was 4 months old, he developed incredibly severe eczema all over his body. So it wasn't just his head. That's just the tip of the iceberg, to use a horrible analogy. So Mason on the left there, and then on the right, that's how his skin has transformed. And he's now got his smile back. And I remember we received messages from his mum who said that he could now smile again and he could play with his brothers and sisters. And again, those are two normal things which other children might take for granted. But for him, because he was in such severe pain for months of his life, he was deprived of them. So how are we doing all of this is the big question. And I'm going to let Sam go into the backstory because this isn't a lecture, this is more of a story in a second. But in a nutshell, through the power of the skin microbiome.
So yeah, I think it's really important to say before we start is that all those people, it's just sort of a very small segment of it. And all those people, just like our mum, which we'll go on to talk about, they came to us because they didn't have anywhere else to turn. So the big thing in our hearts, like Kit mentioned, you said it very well, is, and we've talked to a lot of people here at this place, the main thing is helping others. And the reason that we get up in this morning is because we see stories like that and we realise like there must be a reason for this. What's the reason? And then how can we help? So, yep. So it all started, we're going to take it all back to a jellyfish sting in Scotland. So we were in very weird connection. So there's a jellyfish sting in Scotland. Our mum is Scottish. And we were swimming in the sea one day. We used to stay summers there, and we got stung by a jellyfish. Then we didn't know what to do as a child. It's not very pleasant. It's a bit scary. Not the worst thing, but we came out and a local Scotsman, not our mum's dad, but another local Scotsman said, right, you need to go back into the seawater. So the seawater was the main thing here. We thought, okay, that's a bit odd. And we did it and it worked out. So, and it helped our sting. So the reason we're saying this is we have two events that we look back to in hindsight that really shape our thinking on everything we do. And this is one of them. So the second one is when on our other side, our granddad, he was a doctor in the RAF, the Royal Air Force, and he used to tell us these amazing stories of these pilots who were shot down in World War II, or they had to eject out their planes. And the ones who fell into the sea were much more, or they recovered much more quickly, didn't they, than the ones who fell onto land, which sounds odd. So let's sort of say why that's odd, because normally if you have a burn or an open wound, you think, right, well, don't put bacteria in it. So say if you take 1 teaspoon of seawater, there's going to be billions of bacteria in that. So why did pilots who fell out and ejected into the sea, why did they recover faster? And these two events really sort of, in hindsight, it's always good in hindsight, but they formed our thinking on what was next. So we talked a bit earlier, I'm just going to go back there. Kit always says that bacteria have a very bad press, which a lot of the times quite rightly. But as we're going to talk about, it might be something different. So our mum's severe skin problems, they started when we were young. She started with having just a rash on her face, didn't she? So we had a rash on her face. They started growing. As they started growing, she wanted to find a solution. And why? How could she be helped? She first started with cosmetics, normal cosmetics. She went to normal cosmetics. They said they can help skin problems. Didn't help, made it much, much worse. So they made the problems worse. Okay, So let's try the next thing. Let's go on to natural cosmetics. So she tried natural cosmetics. They didn't help, made it worse. So by this stage, as you saw in the video, her skin, it was spread all over her face, and she couldn't really smile or talk. It impacted all of her life. Then we got on to she had to turn to medical, didn't she? Right to the medical. At that stage, we won't go into all the processes, but didn't help, made it much, much worse. So at all of these stages, she turned to people that should have been helping her, and not only did they not help, but they made it much, much worse, which, it's very odd to say the least. At the worst, it's just, it's pretty terrible, and that's why we took it into our own hands, didn't we? We took it into our own hands to find the solution, or find out why it's happening first, and then the solution.
Why did we take it into our own hands, Sam?
What?
Well, because everyone else my mum turned to for help, they failed her in her experience. So, as you said, we needed to do the work ourselves and take it into our own hands.
So, Kit, you can talk about your research.
My research.
Kit loves talking about his research.
Yeah. Do you want to swap places as well?
No, don't, just say that.
All right, okay. My neck's getting sore.
Your neck, right, okay. Swap places, come on then. Come on then, stop moaning.
Right, so, where was I? Yeah, so really and truly, we thought our mum was a medical anomaly or some kind of outlier.
Yeah.
Some genetic predisposition to these diseases, and maybe something which was so unlike the rest of the population, she was, one of the anomalies the doctors forget about. But what our research uncovered was nothing short of a scandal. We found that in the Western world, and America particularly, because that's where we are today, there's been a 500% increase in skin problems, skin allergies in the last 100 years. And as I'll go on to, this isn't just skin allergies, this is all type of whole body problems as well. So the question is, and that also coincides with the cosmetics industry, which has seen its rise massively throughout the 21st century. The question is, with the most advanced healthcare ever, and as the human race has evolved so much, we have so much support, medicine, doctors all around us to help us. Why is there this huge epidemic going on? And as I said, this wasn't just limited to skin problems. At the same time, food allergies had shot up as well in the last 75 years to 100 years. And respiratory allergies as well have been shooting up. But really interestingly, in the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen that skin allergies, the rate of deterioration has actually increased. So when there are more natural products on the market, when there's increased healthcare spending all across the world, in the Western world, skin allergies have actually been increasing. So the big question now is, why is this? And that's our goal of all our research. Why is this, and what can we do to solve this, as we call it, scandalous chronic disease epidemic going on across the Western world?
Yeah, so the main reason of everything we do, like we said, how we get up in the morning is because we want to find out why, and then when you know why, then you can try and roll it back. So we talked about those 2 events and our mum's terrible skin problems that led to a sort of eureka moment, light bulb moment. So we thought back to the microbes in the seawater and our granddad's stories of pilots ditching in the sea. And we thought, could this terrible bad press of microbes that we always hear about, could it be unjustified? Could we always hear about, say, the gut and how important it is for whole body health. A lot of your research is on the gut microbiome, and we hear about how microbes in the gut are useful. But could the same be on the skin, the exact same thing? That was a question that predetermined this. And then when we got onto our research, we found out that we're actually only 40% human. So again, you're 40% human. It sounds a bit odd. You're only 40% yourself. But the 60% of you that is microbes living in and on you. Sounds very odd again. But if we're only 40% human and the 60% microbes, then why is everything that we hear about microbes and bacteria that they're bad? Because they're part of us. They're an ecosystem. Is that right, Kit? Am I waffling?
No, that's absolutely right. So everyone in here is actually less human than they are microbe, which is a scary and very perplexing thought.
Yeah, I normally say at that point, Kit's 1% human, but that just tries to make her. So yeah, if we go back to the skin, that's our main area. So the skin is your largest organ in the body, and so it's home to probably the most diverse amount of microbes in it too. So could the skin be just as important as the gut for whole body health, and could it protect us? And this led us down to the thinking about how our mum and countless others had all these problems and no one could seem to fix it. So that was the light bulb moment. So as we researched more, we found out that all skin problems, common skin problems, are linked with a damaged microbiome. So you can reel it off. You can go acne, eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, athlete's foot. I could just go on, and the list goes on and on. But we found, they're all linked with the damaged skin microbiome, and it even goes all the way to some types of skin cancer. So there's something that we're missing here, and there's something that we need to find out. So I'm going to hand you back over to Kit. You're going to talk about our skin in the Western world.
Yeah.
And what did you find out about the health of our skin in the Western world?
Yeah. But really first, just quickly, I want to say, I think especially about the skin, people have this idea that it's just a kind of inanimate sheet which is stretched over our bones and muscles. But in fact, it's really cool to think of it as like a thriving, living ecosystem, which a lot of people may know about the gut, but not so much about the skin. So I think that's a really nice imagery. But yeah, again, motivated by research in the gut microbiome field, where they actually found the healthiest guts ever recorded were from infants in rural Burkina Faso. We thought, could the same be true of the skin? Again, could it mirror the gut? And so what we did was we tried to find out evidence of someone whose skin hadn't been in contact with Western civilization or Western practices. And what we found was, first, that's the green line there. That shows you this, the skin health of Yanomami people who are isolated from Western civilization for their whole 10,000 years of existence.
So they don't have access to any of the health and welfare systems, right?
So they live in total isolation. And they had the healthiest skin ever recorded. Scientists actually said it was unprecedented levels of skin health, which had never been seen before on any human group. So that is the major discovery, and that is absolutely incredible. But now the question is, let's compare this to the Western skin. So a human, healthy human in the Western world, how does their skin health look like in comparison?
Sorry.
So yeah, when you compare the green line of the uncontacted tribes people to even the most healthy of Western people, you can see there's a huge reduction in skin health. And again, the mechanism by which we did this is quite complex. So reading our papers would be good, but it's too complex and boring to go into right now. And then comparing that to unhealthy Westerners, so people with skin problems, acne, eczema, what happens again is obviously... So we need to be quicker. Right, so at the bottom, you have the red line, and that's for unhealthy Western skin. So you can see again, it's much depleted again in skin health.
Really quickly, Kit, what's unhealthy Western skin? What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah, people with skin problems, stuff like that, yeah.
So just generalize it. Okay.
So again, this leads us towards the conclusion, which you're going to conclude, that there is something in the Western world which is causing this skin damage.
Yeah.
And that's what you...
Oops. So I think, it's good. I think what we'll do there is we'll sum it up. So we've got all these, we've got all common skin problems, the first summing up point. All common skin problems are linked with a damaged microbiome, every single one. Then we've got the less than optimal gut and skin microbiomes in the West that we have. So it's the skin and the gut. So there must be something in our environment, in the Western world, that we're encountering that, firstly, other people don't encounter, these tribes people, that could be causing it. And if we can find out what's causing it, then we can find a solution. So the chronic disease epidemic could be linked to this exact point. So, I mean, it could be something that we're putting on our skin. it could be something that we're eating, it could be pollution, it could be a whole host of other factors. There could be many of them. But if we can find out what it is, and taking it back to our original point of why we're here and why we get up in the morning is to solve and go and try and solve the chronic skin disease epidemic, then we can actually go ahead and solve it, which is brilliant. And as we always say, go back to having healthy caveman skin. So we talk about caveman skin. It's a nice word to coin it. But it's like you said, the tribes who weren't contacted.
Weirdly, going back to the skin health of our ancestors is actually much better than the skin health we have today, which is a very weird, ironic thing to do, because our ancestors in many ways were much more unhealthy than us and succumbed to so many diseases which we have protection for now.
Mm-hmm. So you can go back to your research now. So one of our postulates was that the chemicals in the everyday cosmetics that we're using, could they be amounting or causing this decrease in our microbiomes, and could they be part of the reason for this chronic disease epidemic? So what's your research?
But the reason we have this hypothesis that it could be everyday cosmetics is because when you start researching about the possible causes of skin damage, the number one most common factor in papers is synthetic ingredients in everyday cosmetics. But there are other factors involved, obviously, like pollution, hyper-sanitized indoor living environments. We're not hippie enough nowadays. We don't spend enough time in nature. So that's the reason we started these studies. And this was the first of our groundbreaking studies into this. And we found that there was a direct link between the amount of synthetic chemicals in everyday cosmetics and skin damage in the Western world.
Okay, so what did you find?
So this graph here is just a very easy representation of the main finding, which is incredible. So on the right-hand side, you see a leading synthetic brand in the orange and a leading so-called natural brand. I'll come back to why that's so-called natural in a bit. And they both maintain the damaged Western skin microbiome. Compare that to 100% truly natural cosmetics face wash, and the results are incomparable. The truly natural face wash increases skin health by a huge amount in just 2 weeks. And do remember that ecosystems like your skin, they take months to stabilize or to strengthen. So this is an incredible result in just 2 weeks. But it supports, for the first time in our research, the fact that synthetic ingredients in modern cosmetics could be causing this massive skin damage in the Western world. And as we'll go into later, could be also a factor in the chronic disease epidemic. And this graph, again, is just another mechanism to try and find out the same point. So as you see, both the synthetic and the so-called natural brand are much depleted in skin health compared to the 100% truly natural brand.
So what's the difference in that one?
Difference?
Yeah.
All right. So the synthetic brand in orange, it's 30% in this other mechanism. It's 30% less good, to use a very badly worded phrase, than the 100% truly natural products. So again, it's just further evidence of the same phenomenon happening on the skin.
But yeah, so this is, I think, let's go back to, actually, I'm going to go back to this one. So we've seen that the synthetic brand maintains a suboptimal skin microbiome. But also, Kit, the weird point about this is that the natural, so-called natural brand in grey, can you explain that? What's happening there?
Yeah, so I said, in inverted commas, I said so-called natural, because what's happening in the industry at the moment, and what we found in this paper, was that the natural cosmetics product, which we used, actually contained 70% synthetic chemicals, which is a huge amount of chemicals for a so-called natural product. Compare that to if you go on the next slide, Sam.
Okay, so wait.
Sam.
Okay, no, you carry on.
So compare that to the synthetic product. So the synthetic product, 75% of its ingredients were synthetic, but it had no facade of being natural, so that's fair enough. So there was only a very slight difference between those labelled as natural and normal overtly synthetic cosmetics.
So
again, this wasn't just, shut up, stop interrupting me. Honestly, it's getting annoying now.
Too much mumbo jumbo.
I'm going to make you sit there in a second. Right. So basically, this was indicative, what we found through our research, of a wider problem. Again, it's not just an isolated anomaly. It wasn't just the fact that we picked off the worst natural product on the shelf. Now, actually, there's a wild west in the cosmetics industry at the moment about regulations and calling a product natural, which doesn't exist in the food industry. And even more ridiculously and ironically, in the natural product we used in that study, it contained MI and MCI. And don't ask me to say the names because they're like this long and they're massive. But they've both been linked in a number of studies, multiple studies, to massive harm on the skin and allergic reactions. So much so that they've been banned in Canada and in leave-on products in the EU. So if we have way worse chemicals or synthetic ingredients in so-called natural products, then what is the point of them being labelled natural at all? And why is there no regulation?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the thing to mention there again is the way we started is because we looked at our mum's story and thought, right, why is this happening? So we compiled a huge list of all these, not just synthetics, we started out with cosmetics, compiled a list of them and their ingredients, and we found, okay, well, all of these ingredients have been linked, or these synthetic ones have been linked with damage. Then we looked at the natural ones, as Kit's showing, compiled a list. We used to do a product of the week, it's called, where we say the multinational that has been producing a product they're saying is natural and just piling it full of chemicals, doing exactly that same thing. And we found that then there was nothing that the natural ones did differently than the synthetic ones, which, I mean, it's a scandal, really.
And we actually got, this is funny, we got legal letters posted through the door from some big multinational, I won't name them, because of this exact issue, because we were exposing what they were doing, which is in clear sight anyway.
So so let's take it back really to why we do it. The reason we do it, again, is to help people like our mum. We're not just standing up here saying something like that to be inflammatory. We're saying it to help people, because people go into the store and they don't know what they're putting on their skin, let alone with something that's called natural. So again, it's just deceit by the multinational big companies who can just do what they want. So we come onto this. Let's just talk about a bit more about the natural products, so-called. They have these supposed regulation bodies, and these regulation bodies, the heads of them, surprise, surprise, they are the same people who are part of the companies and the multinationals that they regulate. So it's a circular process like that.
It's an old boys club.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not just boys.
And then we start out to see these words that are used in the deceit are natural, pure, naturally derived, all derivations of this. And the bottles are like, have flowers on them, and they have lovely bees whizzing about in this lovely ecosystem. And then thinking back to our mum, it really sort of hit home that our mum went out and bought these products and thought, oh, they're going to help because they got bees on them. But it just made it worse. And this is just complete and utter deceit. You can't call it anything else. There's no other way of saying it.
It goes a bit further than just being misleading or wrong packaging. If it actually affects your health, and it goes a lot further than just being a transparency issue.
Yeah, and all the people that Kit showed at the beginning, is just a small microcosm of it. They all came to us because they had tried this route. They tried these things. They actually made it worse. We've even talked to, which we do every day, but we talked to a few people here again, and they've said, well, yeah, I had my hair done the other day and I blew up in a rash and had this severe reaction to it. And no one knows what the chemicals are that they're putting on their skin. So yeah, and I can feel you want to getting impatient. So we've seen that how the skin being damaged can relate to all these skin problems. So the skin and skin problems. But as we talked about, the body in everything is an interlinked ecosystem. It's all working as one. So you have the skin and the gut working together. You can take two facets. And if they work together, then why couldn't, our question was, could our whole body health be impacted by our skin health? Because if we're talking about, there's a lot of common knowledge about the gut and how it can impact our health in general, going outwards, couldn't the same happen the other way? The skin to our whole body health. So this problem could be even wider. We could be having not just skin allergies, but these cosmetics, synthetics causing problems just throughout our body. And this is the question, this is a very serious question, because the skin gut microbiome are linked. And we found now that the biggest point here, new research, probably within the last year, has shown that food allergies actually can be caused by a damaged skin microbiome. So it's not just us postulating it. Now there's new research saying this, and it makes sense to us because, again, it's all linked. But food allergies could be linked to a damaged skin. We always say that the skin is the first line of defense, and more than we actually even comprehend at this moment. So this, the skin being related to whole body health is something we're really pioneering in this field because, well, Kit is leading this research again, head author. You're steering the ship. So we've got two sort of papers we wanted to tell you today about how we're looking at whole body health. So that one I told you about food allergies, that was someone else. We're pioneering research in whole body health. And Kit, do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah. I think this is important because we always call it the chronic disease epidemic. So it goes much deeper than just skin health. It goes to other whole body health issues. So like, as Sam just mentioned, food allergies. So there's now a burgeoning body of research which is backing up what we're saying. And we wouldn't be in this position if the skin microbiome research wasn't so neglected. But only now are people realizing the massive impact of the skin on whole body health. So one of the exciting papers we've published recently was actually found that aiding the skin microbiome could help people who've been suffering with something called topical steroid withdrawal. And really quickly, it's just when people come off using high potency topical steroids for a number of years and their skin explodes and they get a multitude of whole body issues as well. So it's not just on their skin. And some people in this study were left bedbound after they came off topical steroids, which, let's not forget, were given to them by experts, in inverted commas. And one person in the study had used topical steroids for 50 years. And on the packet, it even says you should only use topical steroids for a few weeks. I can't remember the exact figure, but one of these she was a woman, she used it for 50 years. And you can only imagine, doctors know well enough the damage it does to your skin and your whole body if you use it for longer than that. But she was allowed to do this and actually recommended to do this. So as we can see in the study, using our skin microbiome strengthening program, 85% of symptoms of the people improved. And actually one person in the study who had been on topical steroids for 48 years, which is only slightly less than 50 years, she saw 92% of her, she saw an improvement in her symptoms of 92% on average. So some of her symptoms completely disappeared. And this was just in 6 months. And they'd been using this stuff for 50 years. So this is quite remarkable in that short amount of time. And it just, again, shows how important the skin microbiome could be for whole body health. And they noticed that their other whole body health issues actually were transformed as well. So, for example, people saw gut issues stopping. They saw an improvement in sleep quality and other things like that, and bone deep itch, which is very horrible. And finally, an exciting project which Sam and I have a lot of interest in because we're sportsmen. We play tennis at our universities. Is how the skin affects sports performance and recovery. So if you go into any changing room and you hear like a football coach, I mean American football, not soccer, if you hear a football coach talk about sports performance or what athletes need to do, they always talk about diet, but they never mention the skin. So again, this area of your body, which is so crucial, is being neglected. So we found that within just 2 weeks of these high performance athletes, which you recruited locally, 35% of them said that their muscle stiffness and recovery improved in just 2 weeks. And this is quite remarkable again, because to strengthen things like the skin microbiome or ecosystems, it does take far longer than just 2 weeks. Again, this is just another indication of how important the skin microbiome is in overall health, and we're going to be doing loads more studies in the future to build on this.
Yeah, so the one before was done by a doctor in Holland, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so I think that's just the start of our pioneering research. But I think now we want to get to sort of what the solution is, because that's the reason that we started out on this journey. Why we started with our mum, why she had no one to turn to, so we had to take it into our own hands. So I think the first part that we always say is that it's it's never one factor. Okay, never just one factor. We're not standing up here saying that it's just one thing that heals everything, because also the body's interlinked ecosystem. But what we're talking about is the skin microbiome that's being completely overlooked. So when talking about that, is the first thing is do no harm. So stop using these cosmetic, everyday cosmetics that are given and made by the multinational ones. So stop using them, stop doing harm to your body. That's the first thing. We won't go into much why. That comes into our Trinity course, why it is, but it's a bit to do with it being alien to the immune system. So I think then the second point is we started to show here is to only use products on your skin that are 100% truly natural. So this means that the ingredients aren't alien to the skin, and they also not just need to be 100% truly natural, but they need to be creating the right conditions on the skin for skin health to thrive, for biodiversity as we call it. But that again, all the scientific mumbo jumbo comes into our Trinity course. So I think we'll reiterate that. So most people, including our mum, don't know what they're putting on their skin, especially when they think they're putting natural cosmetics on. And the deceit of these big companies putting chemicals in to these products and calling it natural is just furthering that. And the effects it could have are very far-reaching from what we've shown you here today. So I think at this point, we've shown you how the power of the skin microbiome is really transforming lives and people's health all across the world. And we've also shown you that we could find a way to roll back the chronic disease epidemic in the Western world. And this is our mission. This is the reason we get up each day, isn't it, Kit? And so we say now, you can come and join us and be on this mission with us together. Thank you. If you want the mumbo jumbo scientific stuff is in Trinity. It's on the CHHP course, and
That's
then
the course.
That's the whole thing. And then you can sign up to our skin microbiome school. And then if you want to know more about these words, there's a glossary of terms, and then all of the research that we do, not just publish but also use, is on our site too. So references, citations, our published research is all in here. So we always say we like to build relationships. So we can take 2 questions, but want to build relationships, so you can come up to us at the end, talk to us if you have the same vision. Anyone get any questions? Go for it.
So I know you said most of it's natural, but I see a lot of things now that are saying organic or vegan. Are they the same as the natural?
Yeah. Go on, Kit.
Sorry, same problems. Yeah. So organic's a good one, because in the food industry, organic just means no chemicals in it, regardless of where it comes from. But in the natural industry, the cosmetics industry, there are actually regulations which mean that you can have up to something like 60% synthetic chemicals and still call it organic. But again, it's because the regulations bodies are made up of the multinationals who are benefiting from it. But yeah, good question. What was the other one you said? You said organic and?
Vegan.
Yeah.
Oh, vegan, yeah. Well, yeah, vegan would just mean things like no honey and stuff like that, because it can't come from animal sources.
So yeah, good still. I mean, a lot of it just still has
yeah, sorry, vegan wouldn't mean it's natural. Yeah. Although some people think the two are linked. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, I think we're done there.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming, everyone.